Hey guys, welcome to Spilling the Beans. Today I'm sitting down with Frank Wells, who's the owner of Holy City Meds. I love bringing on different entrepreneurs that aren't just real estate professionals, just because it gives us a different perspective and different angle. And there's a lot of things that maybe they do in their business that we can take into ours and tweak and think about and just kind of look through a different lens. And so they're an urgent care facility with several facilities here in Charleston, South Carolina, looking to scale substantially over the next few years into a multiple $100 million and eventually billion-dollar national brand. And so super pumped to sit down with him. He's got a lot of great insights and a lot of experience in this world. And I'm excited to get some of those takeaways and be able to implement it into our business. Frank, welcome to Spilling the Beans. How are you, man?
Thanks, Tim. Doing great. Thanks for having me.
All right. So I'm excited to hear a little bit about this because we've had a lot of real estate investors on here. We've had a lot of consulting businesses and things like that on here. But I don't know if we've ever had a medical business on here. So I'm excited to see. I'm a big believer that the pillars of business transcend industry, right? You got sales and marketing, you have operations and human resources, you have finance and accounting, and really we all just have a different widget or a different service that we're selling. But I like seeing the different widgets. I like seeing the different services. And so I'm excited to dive into this. Before we do, share a little bit about how did you become, I know we're talking offline, but how did you become an entrepreneur?
Sure. Well, first of all, we like being first, so I love that. Became an entrepreneur because my parents had businesses when I was growing up, and I worked in those businesses as a 9-year-old kid.
What kind of businesses?
Grocery store, had a Piggly Wiggly here in town.
Oh, cool.
Up in Somerville, and then at the same time, my dad bought a Dairy Queen. So my mom did not kill him, but we're running, a 60, 70 hour a week grocery store.
Yep.
And my parents are, and then a Dairy Queen on Rivers Avenue. And as kids, myself and my 2 older brothers, we loved it because we got to, be involved in the business. The owners of the kids of the owners and running around, but still
free ice cream, right?
Yeah, ice cream. Oh, the dip with the chocolate on the top and everything. So learned how to do the DQ curl.
Nice.
And then worked in the grocery store first. So just got experience, and then the conversation around the table was always about, how much revenue did we do today? What are the margins? How many customers? And then the other thing too, being an owner, I saw my dad give away rice and beans and stuff to homeless people that would walk in the grocery store, and they wanted to steal something. My dad said instead of stealing, he would just give it to them. And so he developed a relationship with people through owning the business where he could serve not only his customers, but just people in the community, and that sort of gets in your veins.
Yeah, for sure. That's I think it's fascinating because my dad was an entrepreneur as well, but he also worked a full-time job. So I got to see kind of the rich dad and the poor dad version of it. So when you were going through school and kind of coming through junior high and senior high, and did you go to college?
Yep.
So you saw your parents. Did you always want to be an entrepreneur?
So,
because sometimes people see their parents working and they're like, I want nothing to do with that, right? I want nothing to do with being on the phone late at night and on the weekends and work and all this other stuff. And I want to go this direction. But how did it resonate with you?
Yeah, no. So I love the relationship part of business, right? I'm a people person, so I love that part. Actually, after College of Charleston, I went to New York. I was a bond trader.
Okay.
And so I left there and went and got my MBA at Chapel Hill because I wanted to run businesses, operate businesses, or help other people develop and grow their business. And I said, if I'm really going to do this well, I'm going to try to do it better than what I saw before. And so I need some training. And so that was MBA, grad school. And then I went and did turnaround consulting with Coopers and Lybrand. So what I wanted to see was the worst, or what happens when things are really going bad. And you got to jump in and recreate the model or recreate the business. And so from there, I learned tons of skills. They say in consulting, you get 3 years of experience for every 1 year of consulting. So I did turnaround, which was the hardest thing, I think, and learned a ton.
So there's obviously some economic stuff going on right now, right? Interest rates are rising, insurance costs are going through the roof, labor's more expensive, supply chain's still a little bit shaky. What did they teach you? What were some of the fundamentals when you go in and you kind of audit a business in that regard? What are you looking for? And what are the What are the things that move the needle the most in order to kind of turn the ship around a little bit?
Fundamentals. The same stuff that we're taught in business school or in undergraduate school. And one of the companies, the last one I turned around I did before getting into healthcare almost 20 years ago, was a uniform manufacturing business. So they were still making white polyester uniforms for the food and beverage industry for restaurants, but not selling any. They were putting them in containers and renting the containers to put all this really inexpensive uniforms that no one was selling. So we came in as a turnaround group, myself and one other guy, and said, well, you're selling 3% of your SKUs, the other 97% you're manufacturing and storing. So we're not going to make those anymore. They thought we were brilliant. All we did was say, look, these are the only ones you're selling. Let's just make those and do that really well and not make the other ones. And it was mind-blowing for them. So that we've always done it this way. I mean, that happens in the healthcare space, in so many spaces, but we notice it so much in healthcare. We're going to keep doing this the same way because we've always done it that way, and we can't do any innovation because it might disrupt something. You want disruption, in many spaces.
Right.
For us, healthcare.
I love that. So, took that and got into the healthcare space. What did that transition look like?
It was a business development, sort of, not a startup, but 2.5 years old. They had 3 CEOs in 2.5 years. That's just.
I mean, who was the owner?
So an ER doc here, local ER doc, involved in the business.
Typical doctors, not very good at business side of things.
Great at the medical stuff.
Really good.
Great at the efficiency and the medicine,
Tactician
the process.
type stuff,
Oh
right?
yeah, fantastic that. So I was the 4th CEO in 2.5 years. I stayed for 12 years. That's where Chelsea and I worked together for about a decade with the whole efficiency model. So we saw about 150,000 patient visits per year. No one ever made an appointment. I mean, over 100 patients per clinic per day. The average wait time was 7 minutes.
Wow.
It's because we don't, and we never did, nor do we now at Holy City, allow our doctors to type for hours and hours and hours. In the ER, you'll find that about 75% of the doctor's time is spent typing in a computer with no patient near them.
Wow.
Only a quarter of their time is really in patient care. So in the Health First model, we didn't have that. So we had a really efficient note-taking scenario where we could look at each other and make little notes and circle, STP for strep or FLU for flu or XR for X-ray, and make little notes and then hand that to somebody, have them enter it into a chart, and have the rest of the team go around and get the X-ray and get the flu test and do this and do that and put the cast on and everything. So the doctor was mostly sitting around waiting for the patients to come in. I'm ready for another patient because they're not doing this. Amazing. I tell people this all the time in the medical space and they can't get it. They're like, so I can hire a scribe? Yes, please hire a scribe. Yeah, we don't do that. So we took that from the Health First model, put that into Holy City, and our patients don't wait. I mean, they literally come in, they're getting treated, they're getting triaged and cared for almost immediately back into a room, and the doctor's ready when they walk in the room to see the patient.
When you say this, I'm thinking like the compartmentalization of like a Henry Ford model, right? It's like this person is an absolute expert at putting the wheels on, right? This person's an expert at the engine. This person's an expert at the paint. This person's the expert at X, Y, Z. And everybody has their specialization. And because they're specialized in that, they get better at it. They become more efficient at it. They become more effective at it. There's less waste that happens because they're just focused on doing the same activity over and over and over again. And I think about that as you're talking, is everybody's specialized essentially in your organization. And then it removes a lot of the waste, right?
Yep. So we have that in their specialty and they're cross-trained. So it really helps when you get, sort of more people in a certain part of your process, and then somebody else has to jump over here and do vitals, or somebody has to jump over here and do some nursing duties. The X-ray tech can also do nursing duties and put a cast on and
so
do
there's
shots.
redundancies. So if somebody can't make it in, somebody gets sick, you can still kind of fill that gap.
Well, and it's more for volume. So volume in the system, a lot of people want to check in at one time, so we need more people doing the vitals, the intake area. And then all of a sudden more people are getting nursing care because they're back in the rooms and the doctor's seen them and said, I need shots here, I need this over here, I need that. We're going to do x-rays, all that kind of stuff. So they're actually moving with the patients through the process. So there's not one person. If you go to the hospital, there's one person for intake, there's one person for vitals, there's one person for this. So you're waiting every step of that game. And ours, we don't do that.
And so you can take a few people from over here and move them towards wherever the bottlenecks are in the
wherever
process.
the patients are. They're sort of following the patients throughout the whole clinic process.
Do you have everybody cross-trained for all tasks, or everybody cross-trained for, like, I don't know, hey, these are the up to $100 an hour tasks, and these are all the people that we're going to cross-train for all of these tasks that are under $100 tasks, and then the doctors or whoever else can be $100 to $1,000 an hour tasks, and they're going to cross-train that. Would you guys try to compartmentalize it that way?
Yeah, so most people are cross-trained in at least one or two other areas, not all.
Not all, yeah.
Obviously, the doctor's a doctor, and they have to do their specialty. The X-ray tech is the only X-ray tech in the building. But some of those other tasks that get done more frequently and more often, they're cross-trained.
No, I agree. I think whenever I sit down with entrepreneurs, and kind of like when you were talking to the doctor, like, you need a scribe, right? You need somebody who's an administrative assistant, essentially, to take those lesser dollar tasks off your plate, because as a doctor, you should be making hundreds and hundreds of dollars per hour, as opposed to doing a $10 or $15 or $20, even a $95 activity. No, your time is worth more because you have that. And when entrepreneurs come in, I'm like, listen, you got to get those under $100 tasks off your plate, so that way you can focus on the revenue generating activities. And for a doctor, that's the higher dollar items.
Yeah, and it's funny. Our scribe is not only data entry, which is sort of an assistant type role, but they're also leadership. So the doctors in the room, they have no idea what's happening in the clinic with 8 other patients at the same time. The scribe does. So they're looking around and saying, "Hey, doc, when the doc comes out of that room, he says, Doc, go here. Or here, this is your prescriptions. That one just had their X-ray. It came up. Take a look at it." They're leading them and telling them which room to go to next. Hey, we numbed up that patient. In 10 minutes you're going to be sewing them up, putting the stitches in them and all that kind of stuff. So they're really not only just data entry, but leading and making the doctor super, super efficient, so the patients don't wait.
I love that. And so you guys implemented that at the previous clinic that you worked for.
Yep.
That sold?
Yep. So we sold those. I sold those 5 years ago.
That sold 5 years ago. And you're thinking, what's next? What was the natural next step?
Well, I stayed on for a year as the outgoing CEO. Told the group before the deal that I would do the same thing. I'd do urgent and primary care in Charleston, that I wouldn't take any insurance, process any claims, but I would do it all direct pay. Said, if you guys still want me in the deal, let me know. They came back a month and a half later and said, yep, that's fine. So I did exactly what I told them I was going to do before that deal transaction. Stayed on for a year, and then was able to start Holy City Med pretty quickly after transition, because everyone knew what I was going to do next. So,
and you didn't have a non-compete or anything like that?
I did for the year that I worked. The non-compete ran for 1 year while they were paying me. So they could have had a 20-year non-compete, would have been fine as long as they were paying me.
Yeah.
But I didn't have any equity in the deal, so as the outgoing CEO, they really can only handcuff me for the time they were paying me. And so some of the resources I got out of the transaction, that and savings and everything else, went into developing Holy City Med.
And so when you went and started Holy City Med, did you bring on outside capital? Did you bring on other investors or other partners?
Yeah, the investors that we have are real estate investors.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so you'll love that part. All the funds we use are all local for the operations, but we do use other folks for the real estate.
So you own all the clinics?
Yeah.
The real estate of the clinics? So you own the clinic?
No, we bought and sold and leased back. So more funding to build more clinics. The goal is 62 clinics in South Carolina before we decide to build outside of the state or not.
I love that.
So we want to build enough so we can get enough companies. Some companies have employees in Charleston and Columbia and Spartanburg and somewhere else, and so we want to have clinics in those areas so we can take care of all their teams, regardless of where they are inside the state.
What's 62? How'd you fall on that number?
So
is it
it's
like a
just
specific revenue?
No, it's a multiplier. It's about $200 million in revenue, but it's a multiplier of, hey, we're going to start with 2, and then we're going to do 4, and then 8, and then 16, and 32. That's 62.
Got it. 64.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Close
What we do?
enough,
That's
right?
close.
Yeah.
60 something.
Doesn't matter. Well, I tell you what, like, there's a lot of wisdom that comes in that, because I think, like I see it with real estate investors, they want to go wide in many different markets, right? I want to buy in Florida, I want to buy in Texas, I want to buy in Louisiana, I want to get stuff in the Midwest, and they're all over the place. But you have to understand and learn the different, like, nuances with each community. The different, what do the landlord-tenant laws look like? What are the stipulations? Who's the housing court judge? Who's the attorney? Who's the CPA? What are the tax laws in that state? And there's so many different nuances that come in with going wide across multiple markets. I know it kind of looks cool and there's a little bit of a sizzle to it, but I think anybody who's had experience in business like yourself, you understand that it's not cool, right? What's cooler is being the best and being the biggest in a smaller pond, and that's what really generates way more revenue, is far more profitable before you ever go into another market.
Yeah. We're doing that first with Charleston, and then Greenville, Spartanburg, Columbia, and then the rest of the state. And the idea of staying within the state is LLR, Labor Licensing and Regulation, is a state entity. And so we understand how LLR works within South Carolina. We don't need to know what the other states are doing. We just have to know what they're doing here. And so, compliance in the healthcare space is important. I will tell you, it's interesting. We have the most private visit of anybody anywhere, because we don't send your records to 12 different insurance companies or 100 different insurance companies and have multiple people looking at what happened between you and the physician. It's you and the doc and their care that they provided, and no one else is seeing that, which is super cool in terms of privacy.
I love that. I mean, that itself is a huge value proposition. Talk a little bit more about what we were talking on offline, where you guys don't do anything that's insurance related, right? And you only do private pay, and that reduces the cost and increases the quality of it as well, right?
Yeah, so most people think that we don't have patients that have insurance. We have a ton of patients that have insurance. They never hit their deductible, and if they go to the doctor somewhere, they're going to pay $200 to $300 or more for that visit. So we do walk-ins for half that. $97, you can walk in the clinic and get care, see a doctor, get prescriptions refilled, all that kind of stuff, virtual visits or even less. But then we decided to add a subscription model. So the subscription model is way under $100 per head, per employee. So the employer comes in and says, I just want people to get care. If they're sick, I don't want them coming to the office, I want them going to the doctor. And I need them to go same day, and that's our model. So even with the behavioral health and the mental health stuff, we do same day walk-in. Primary care, when you usually have to call somebody and make an appointment weeks or months from now, same day. Urgent care obviously is always same day, and occupational medicine, sewing up lacerations in the workplace or doing x-rays if somebody fell down at work. Gerald's Tires and Denton Shipyard, they hang off of boats 100 feet in the air. So we do all of their injuries and evaluations for them in our clinic this same day. So employers really want that. They want people to get cared for, and it keeps them healthy and working, which not only helps the employer to grow, right? You can't grow your business if your employees aren't there. And if they get everyone else sick, now you can't do anything. And then it also helps the employees. Just think about it, most employees are worried about how they're gonna make rent and take care of their families, especially in a rising inflationary environment. And so when they're healthy and working, the employer gets to grow their business and the employee gets to pay their rent and take care of their family. So it really is good that you get this same day care. If you have to wait, or what some people do is they go to work anyway, coughing on everybody in the workplace. Now you got 6 people out instead of 1.
Right.
So we just think access. We just want to get rid of all the barriers, the co-pays and the weeks and months and the appointment setting. You just walk in. Just walk in the door and get care.
So so it's obviously more valuable to the employee and to the employer. Do the employers, do they have health insurance outside of this as well for their employees?
Yeah, typically, certainly the ones with over 50 full-time equivalent employees, right? That's
or do they get rid of that
regulation.
altogether and then?
No, you want something for the hospital. You want most people don't hit a $2,500 deductible.
Right.
So you can have a higher deductible that costs the employer less, but when they go to the hospital, they don't go bankrupt. So 90% of all personal bankruptcies are medical expense related. So that's people that don't have any care. So the deductible is just a cap that says you're not going to spend any more than $5,000 out of your pocket if you fell off the building. And the building's not a good example, but it's because the building's going to pay. But you know, in your personal life, something, the cancer treatment and stuff, that you're going to have this much money out of pocket and the rest is going to be paid for by this insurance plan. And by the way, they don't take care of all these other things. Your sick visits, and you fell down, I might have a UTI, I think I have flu and strep, and what do I do? We do all that. So it fits perfectly with a high deductible plan, which is anything over $2,500 a year is a high deductible.
Yeah, love that.
So they keep both, or they use
but
a
it
medical
saves
share.
money, right, for
sure.
the employer big time. And I think when there's all these different rising costs across the board, that's a big way and a great way for people to do that. And so what you guys do, it's available, I mean, I don't know, I'd say a big contingent of our followers are here in Charleston, and business owners here in Charleston, but we have people all over the country, right, that are watching this. How would they find a clinic like yours in their own community?
Yeah, well, it's a challenge. So most of them are DPC clinics, direct primary care, and they focus on that one sliver. I mean, we're 5 clinics in one, so we're a little unique in that aspect. There's not even a lot of urgent and primary care clinics out there, so a little unique in that way. They could look for concierge care if they're in other places. I will tell you, if they're in South Carolina, we have a fairly new program where we're going to larger employers, and we will build a clinic on the corner of their site for 2,000 lives or more. Won't cost them anything to build the clinic. We'll just charge them the subscription model. And all those other small businesses around them, they're probably vendors for that large, you know, Volvo or whoever it is. They're the vendors. They actually get access to that clinic as well at the same subscription model. So everybody's healthy in the area. They're all working. They're all building whatever they're building.
That's
or
a
serving.
brilliant idea.
So now we can grow with almost much financial risk, right?
Because they're giving you the real estate piece.
Well, we can buy the real estate, or they can give it to us, but we have the lives, the subscription lives, to pay for the clinic. Right? We're break even in the clinic right when we build it, so we could build 10, 20, 30 of those in the next 2 years with a larger clientele. Plus, that Volvo, Boeing, whoever it is, gets full service clinic right there on their site, as opposed to nowadays what they do, they show up, they go talk to a doctor or nurse. They say, oh, you need to go over here and get your x-ray, or you need to go over here and get your labs done, or you need to go over here and get something else done. Like, can you just do that right here?
Right. It's 3 days away from work as opposed to 3 hours or whatever it is.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, that's wild. That's awesome. So over the course of the next X number of years, what are we looking at from a goal standpoint? What is the next 24, 36 months? How long to get to 62 or 65
Yeah,
units?
we're probably 5 to 7 years, and then 60 some clinics. That's us building them inside the state. And then at that point, we'd probably look for some outside capital to try to blow up the model.
You guys are self-funding right now?
Yep, we're self-funded right now and using real estate investors as well for the footprints and for the build out. But at that point, we'd probably look to say, okay, let's go in 9 other states, so be in 10 states. Obviously, if you do that, you're hundreds, 500, 1,000 clinics, and now you're talking a much bigger model. So professional management teams. I mean, there'll be way more people than Chelsea and I running the clinics at that point. But individually, all those clinics will all have a clinic manager. They'll have somebody local, somebody that knows the people, knows the staff. We invest a ton in our employees. And I'll tell you this, the biggest part of the model we took out of Health First was the fact that at Health First, with our employees, they didn't pay anything for their health care, nor did their family that lives under the same roof with them, whether it's brothers, cousins, spouses, kids, they all got free care. So they all were able to be healthy and working in whatever they were doing, either our employees and their family members. We just took that same model and duplicated it at Holy City and said, subscription model, okay, every company that's here, you can do the same thing. That's the most fun part. When you do that and take care of your people first, it's sort of the Richard Branson approach of take care of your people and they will take care of your customers. When we do that we feel like South Carolina is going to be a great example to say, I know we're going to get PE money or VC money or whatever it is, but this is the right way to do it. Now go. We know that South Carolina is going to have amazing clinics, so we just pray that we get to that point that it'll grow outside of the state of South Carolina in the same way.
I love it, man. Culture. I love it. Super inspiring, super informative to kind of just learn about another industry. And I love what you're doing in a whole bunch of different capacities, with the employees, with your operations, with the strategic partnerships with some of the big other employers, and kind of building on site. I think it's a brilliant outside the box thinking in an industry that's very old school mindset in a lot of ways, and antiquated thinking, and you guys are really putting your own spin on it, and it's no wonder and obvious why you guys are having the amount of success that you're having, because you're doing awesome things. So,
thank you.
I appreciate you being here on Spill the Beans, Frank.
Thanks, Tim. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
Hey guys, hopefully you got a ton of great takeaways. Appreciate you being here. Make sure you're following Frank on all of his social channels. And please, give me your biggest takeaway in the comment section below. It's always good and always reassuring that you guys are getting some great value out of these Spilling the Beans episodes. And if there's anybody that you'd like me to sit down with and interview here in the Charleston area, or an entrepreneur who's willing to come to Charleston to sit down, I'd love to interview them here on Spilling the Beans. So, until next time, be your best.